Okay, this game sold like shit apparently, so let's actually start with some dry information. The Silver Case is a visual novel released for PlayStation 1 by Grasshopper Manufacture in 1999. Written in part by Suda51, now probably most famous for penning No More Heroes and Killer 7, it was not released outside of Japan until it got an HD re-release in 2016, coming out on PC and PS4 with an English translation, and that is what I played. The entire thing takes about 16 hours to beat. It was met with a critical reception. Oh god, why do I keep opening Metacritic and doing this to myself? Why do I insist on quantifying art? Don't get me wrong, the Silver Case is flawed. The little interactivity it has is arbitrary and just gets you from one plot point to the next. It focuses so much on its narrative core that I think some characterization suffers. It's very much a passion project of a small studio that just started out in the late 90s. But by god, what is good in this game is more worth preserving and discussing than fucking whatever Call of Duty has a million concurrent players right now. A structured, well-paced video would fit this game like a fist fits a nose, and it's not like I'm a good writer to begin with. Therefore, let's get the technical stuff out of the way before we let chaos reign. Fantastic presentation using a mixed media approach of 3D animation to the pictures to the animation and live action footage. I wish more VNs used pictures of the characters being actually in the scene rather than just the backgrounds and portraits all the time. Earwormy music, the characters that get enough dialogue to be considered as such are memorable and creatively written. The puzzles are so bad they added an autosolve button for all but the final act, and I encourage using it. And now that the pleasantries are out of the way, the information age! We live in it, we have been living in it for decades now, and Suda was intrigued enough by this new era of life that we enter to create a whole game about it. Because ultimately the Silver Case is a game about information, its creation, spread and control. The game has two storylines, both taking place in a fictional manufactured metropolis of 24 worlds, a city planned from the top down, designed to be a new capital of Japan. The first story, Transmitter, is about an officer of the heinous crime unit named after you, a typical quiet protagonist that is meant to be a stand-in for the player. The HCU is a sort of police force tasked with curbing crime in the bud and not letting it spread by any means necessary. Criminality is referred to as a virus that gets transmitted by knowledge and media. It instantly made me think of Psychopaths and wonder whether Urobuchi was inspired by Silver Case, or if this approach to crime as an issue of public health is just another way in which Japan differs from Americas in Europe culturally. The protagonist of the other plotline, Placebo, is Tokyo Morishima, a freelance journalist that follows the main events from an outsider perspective and tries to piece it together. He is a living incarnation of depression in all but name, with his daily routine consisting of waking up late, walking up to his computer and sitting in front of it working until late at night, surrounded by empty cans and cigarette butts. Sometimes talking to his pet turtle or maybe leaving his house once a week. This is the second time I related this hard to a fictional character and I do not like it. Both a detective and a journalist are, by the nature of their employment, tasked with gathering information. But information is such a broad term, isn't it? So what does Silver Case focus on? Statistical data? Memories? Knowledge? Media and manipulation thereof? Fictional stories like fairy tales? Genetic information? Education? Sensory data? History? Dreams? Manipulation of how information can be made through micro and macro changes that influence the way infrastructure works in a major city? The internet? Private information of people leaking? Ideas spreading and forming entire ideologies and societies? Yes, to all of the above. There honestly seems to not be a single moment in the dialogue where some form of information is not discussed, and never in a condescending teaching the audience tone. You might just play through the entire game thinking it's about a cop and a journalist solving crimes. Granted, you probably wouldn't like it very much. Information is the core of our society, our identity, how we communicate what we feel. Both the acts of sharing and withholding information are intentional ones, and both have place in everyday life. It might seem easy to say that on principle, withholding information is bad, but, well, what else is privacy if not refusing to share information about your life? Can this small act of preventing information spread not be used as a justification for a government-level program of information control, aiming for the highest level of public health and safety? I do say our society, and I think that was just as true as when the game was made. Suda 51 did not set the game in some far-off year of the future, but in 1999, the year that the game initially came out. The city of 24 worlds might be fictional, but none of its problems and solutions are. There might not be a pre-designed city being built right now, or guys with cybernetic eyes, but there are means to a narrative end more than a crux which would make the questions of the Silver Case inapplicable to our reality. The design of the UI also reminds you of how the characters are surrounded by technology at every moment, in case you forgot that is also true of you. Going on a bit of a tangent here, but what even is the information age? One might say that, like with the atomic, industrial, bronze or iron ages before it, it is named after the most powerful weapon of that era, but information has always been of extreme value. The Cold War, lying squarely in the atomic era, was waged through espionage and proxy wars, not to mention atom bombs only exist because of knowledge on how to process and use fissile material. The totalitarian states of the 20th century aimed to gain absolute control by disassembling and reassembling the very identity of their citizens. Caesar has a cipher named after him, used to hide information from enemy eyes even if intercepted. And the more our knowledge about the world develops, the more it turns out we are nothing but bundles of information ourselves, both genetic and memetic. So perhaps this is the final stage of societal evolution, an endless tug of war between which information should and should not be made public to ensure an ideal operation of a person, a city, a country. You could pretty much go full utilitarian and turn ethics into calculus with this sort of an approach, boiling people down to data. The only thing that changed in contemporary times is the fact that technology has developed to the point where that fact is visible and pretty much common knowledge. In philosophy, there are three big broad strokes fields of study: ethics, ontology, epistemology. The first one needs no introduction. Ontological study is the contemplation on what things are on an essential level. That's probably what people think of the most when they hear philosophy, things like Plato's objects are just shadows of ideas or materialism. Epistemology, on the other hand, are questions on what knowledge is and how can we be sure about what we know. As a favorite example of mine, imagine there are 100 coins on your desk. What you don't know is that all but one of them are very good replicas. Somebody asks you what a coin is and to point at an example. Completely unknowingly, you point to the one real coin on the desk during your explanation. Can it be said that you properly identified it as a coin? Can you really say you knew it was a coin if you thought the same of all the surrounding not coins? The Silver Case is epistemology in the form of fiction. It never addresses such problems, ideas or authors in the field directly, but it operates under the same principles, letting the player figure out the boundaries of what is and isn't knowledge based on a series of, frankly, cruel twists and turns. And the basis of that is denying you, personally, information. By you, I of course mean the character you named when the game asked you, what's your name? The silent protagonist, the player stand-in, the playable character of the main story that takes place within the events that make the entire plot go around, transmitter. And that you learns fucking nothing. The events happen so fast that at the best you can intuit what is going on, but several times you are forced to act with zero idea what the fuck is even going on. And you can't even ask because, again, silent protagonist, and that aspect is acknowledged by other characters. The silence is not there to project your own questions onto its deafening in-universe lack of sound. You can't even be sure of what level of fantasy the world operates on. You encounter ghosts a few times throughout the game, but whether that's a literal encounter or just an intuitive feeling on the feelings of people who died recently is left ambiguous. At the end of one case, you have to kill the perp and another detective, Kusabi, goes on around, "Come on, big dick, kill the past, kill him and free yourself." And all I can think of is, well, why? What's happening? I can intuit something important is happening because of the build-up, but I have never seen nor heard of this person in my entire fucking life. Similarly, in another case, you get put through a 100-question kumite by another detective. By which I mean you get asked 100 questions, out of which maybe 5 relate to the case at hand. And mind you, you didn't even get confirmation on the answers to any of these except for the most basic premise of the mystery. So you need not only to watch out for the actually important questions in a sea of unrelated bullshit, but pretty much guess at what the correct answer to them is. Who died? What's the capital of France? What's the name of the son of Homer Simpson? Who killed them? Who came first, Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck? The answers to all that come in the other plotline, Placebo. Tokyo Morishima, being the outsider that he is, actually has the time and brain power to take the pieces and put them together into a flowing, coherent narrative. But because he is an outsider, he also has no direct influence on the events and can only make sense of them after they have happened. He tells you who you shot as Big Dick or what the answers to all the important questions from the Kumite were. He's the philosophy professor asking you if you knew that you pointed to the right coin. And well, did you? Or was that just a complete accident and you just intuited where the story was going? What is the line between knowledge and making a shot at the dark, hoping for the best? And that is probably the biggest issue with the information society that we live in, both right now and in 1999. Creating a perfect society requires access to perfect information. Obtaining perfect information is, well, let me just say, good fucking luck. Not only are we tied down by the imperfections of human perception, but also biases of perspective that don't need to be right or wrong at any level. Probably the best portrayal of that is, again, Tokyo Morishima. You meet him as an NPC in the Transmitter story and he looks nothing like his portrait in Placebo. So, which version is the correct one? Transmitter? Placebo? Both? Neither. That imperfection of humanity is addressed as well. Not in some moralist condescending way like, oh, we're all selfish thieves and whores, but simply the fact that we all possess a certain nature and we must accept ourselves first before even thinking of improving ourselves. To say someone imperfect can create perfection by manipulating the information that composes other people is kinda silly, isn't it? I don't necessarily agree with the doctrine that a person cannot create something greater than themselves, but perfection is a pretty tall fucking order. There is a reason why nowadays it's common to believe perfection doesn't exist outside of mathematics. Any attempt at creating a perfect information that serves as the basis of a new idea of a person and society is ultimately destined to be hamstrung by the imperfections of its creators. And even then, iterations of the same information are bound to be warped by the perception of people using said idea. The idea of Kamui Uehara, the serial killer who was the perpetrator of the titular Silver case, is used by several copycats in the story to surpass him, and each have their own spin on the hope his actions brought them, but ultimately none of them accomplished the goal of creating perfection on, well, any level. And those actions were, of course, the arc words of the Silver case and the thematic series the games it started. Kill the past, kill it before it kills you, Kako Okurus. Because what is the past? It's pure information. It might have been the present, the actions, the people at a certain point, but now it's, well, past that. Destroy any trace of an event, kill everyone who had a memory of it, burn the evidence and eliminate yourself for good measure. And it had effectively never happened. Our memories, genes, traditions and history can be wiped out without a trace. And that is the ultimate power of the information age, both the ability to do that and the knowledge of said power. And on some level it is comforting. We have the power to erase all traces of the past that are holding us back. Forget bloodline grudges, escape from a toxic family, cut yourself away from the notion that something has been done a certain way for ages and it has to continue that way. Or, probably on a level that is much closer to the natively Japanese authors of this game, discard the notion of what your society once was and embrace what it could be, cyber and all. Learn yourself, accept yourself, redefine yourself. Do it before someone else does it to you, whether you know it or not. Kill the past before the past kills you, either literally or metaphorically. We exist in a never-ending period of transformation, for better or for worse. Granted, the Silver case is just one game exploring that phrase out of many, and the only one I have played so far, but given this single work, I feel like I'm onto something here. Or you can tell me I'm full of shit in the comments. My perception of the events in the game is imperfect, as is yours. Maybe neither of us are right, or maybe we both are. The Silver Case is not perfect, as are probably all Suda51 games. But if I'm to be honest, I don't want to kill the past they make up. I treasure it. And I know it cannot kill me if I approach it knowingly and accept the thoughts it spurs in me as part of myself. Imperfections and all.